Welcome back to another episode of PTV FC. I'm your host, Louie Pasculli, along with my amazing panel of Ryan Johnston and Jimmy Bliss. And before we get into today's show, I want to ask you guys, how are you doing on this fine Saturday morning?
Doing great, Louie. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here in northern New Jersey, and cannot be more excited for this past week in soccer.
Yeah, I'm doing great as well. Really excited to be talking about the upcoming week and the past week of the world of football with you guys today.
Yeah, and for sure we have a lot to talk about. So the first topic that I want to bring up is the Champions League, something that we've all been waiting for. We are about to reach the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and we have some saucy matchups to talk about. Dortmund versus Manchester City, Chelsea versus Porto, PSG Bayern, and Liverpool versus Real Madrid. I mean, you can make a case for any of these teams to win the Champions League tournament, but I'm going to ask you guys first, which matchup are you most looking forward to?
So I'll start off with this one, Louie, and I think it's pretty simple. PSG Bayern Munich. This is the best Champions League knockout round matchup I think we've seen in quite some time. I think this is the best one we've seen since the Real Madrid Bayern Munich one in 2016, 2017. It's just that good. And so I do think that these two teams are the two favorites for the Champions League. Bayern Munich, of course, is the reigning Champions League holders, and then PSG, the runners-up. So this is a rematch of last year's Champions League final. And honestly, it could not be better as both teams are going to be full strength. There's Neymar's coming back. Di Maria's back. For Bayern, everyone's still healthy. So it's going to be the best versus the best. I could not be looking forward to this matchup anymore. There's going to be a lot of goal scoring in this tie too, with, I believe, the best front three in the world and PSG's front three against one of the other best front threes in the world with Bayern's front three with Lewandowski, Gnabry, and either Sane or Coman, depending on what tactics they want to run. It's going to be a fantastic tie, as well as two of the best managers in the world with Mauricio Pochettino and Hansi Flick. But for this tie, I'm actually going to predict an upset. I think PSG is going to be able to run away with this tie. I think that they just have too much pace for this Bayern backline. Although last year, Bayern kind of took it to them in the Champions League final, but that was with a bum Kylian Mbappe. That was with Neymar kind of doing his shenanigans. That was with a few of the other players who weren't at full strength for PSG, and Bayern was at full strength. So with both teams at full strength, I don't think that Bayern is going to be able to withstand PSG for as long as they did last season, where they just won 1-0 in the final. So I do think that PSG will actually win this tie. I'm going to go with a 4-3 upset over the two legs for PSG, and I'm really looking forward to this. The most excited tie I've been for since I started watching soccer in 2015. Should be a fantastic tie.
Yeah, Jimmy, definitely a great pick right there. Superstar-studded matchup between those two teams, but I'm actually going to go with Real Madrid versus Liverpool. It's not quite the same hype that it would have been last season or even a couple seasons ago because both teams have kind of taken a step back. But I think this is a really good matchup. For Liverpool, I don't get what's going on with them. They're losing to teams like Fulham in the Premier League, and then they go out and they beat RB Leipzig 4-0 on aggregate. They beat them 2-0 twice. They look dominant. They look just straight up dominant against Leipzig. And Leipzig is no slouch. They're a really good team. They're second in the Bundesliga right now. And I was just really impressed from what I saw of them, frankly. I mean, you're speaking about front threes. You got to mention Liverpool's front three and Mane, Salah, and Firmino right there. So it's just they're actually looking decent in the Champions League, I guess. I guess Klopp is saving his best lineup for that Champions League matchup, which makes sense because those are the toughest games that they're going to play. It's just weird how inconsistent they are. I would expect a team of that quality, even with players hurt, to be a little bit more consistent. You should not be losing to Fulham under any scenario. That should be a no-brainer. But looking at Real Madrid, they've been pretty good this season, all things considered. They're still recouping from the loss of Ronaldo a few seasons ago because Eden Hazard just frankly has not been that good for them. But Karim Benzema is really killing it for them this season. He has 15 goals and 5 assists, and a bunch of other players on the team like Casemiro, Luka Modric. Uh, they all have a couple of goals sprinkled here and there. So I think that this Real Madrid team could really do something in the Champions League. I expect them to beat Liverpool just because of the overall quality of the side and Liverpool not having, their defense, their entire defense healthy. So I think this should be a good matchup, though, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out.
Both of you brought up great matchups, and you left me to talk about Dortmund versus Manchester City, so I will happily do that. Thank you, guys. And this is probably the worst matchup for Dortmund, in my opinion, of the teams that they could have gone up against. I mean, they drew against Manchester City, who is one of the best teams in the world. But I will say Dortmund has a not so secret weapon for the Champions League, and his name is Erling Haaland. Now, before you call me Skip Bayless, it's going to be hard for Dortmund to win this game, or I should say these two games against Manchester City. And the reason is this. Their defense hasn't looked the best as of late. They had a lot of injuries. They're now getting healthy, but Hitz is still playing instead of Roman Bürki in net, and he has his moments of looking really well, but then I'll be watching a game and I'm like, oh, he should have saved that one. And I think Roman Bürki would have made the save had he have been playing. Thankfully, he is back. I'm excited to see who they're going to play in the Champions League. I don't know if Bürki is ready to go fully, but again, they're going up against a team of Manchester City's quality who has so many attacking players. I mean, Aguero is back. De Bruyne is back. It's a scary-looking team. And I'm not going to say that Borussia Dortmund is going to win. I don't even want to make a prediction because I'm just ready to sit back and watch some exciting football. I just want to watch a good game between these two sides. But then you look at Borussia Dortmund and you look at they have the highest scoring Norwegian player in Champions League history, and he's only 20. So this guy is a game changer. He can put the team on his back when needed. And Sancho is injured. Jadon Sancho is injured. I don't think he'll be playing in the UCL. So it's really going to be Haaland and Royce if he plays on that for that attack for Dortmund. So it's going to be up to them to be able to overcome this amazing Manchester City team. Now, we just talked about the matchups, but I want to get into the big picture and who you guys think is going to win the Champions League. So I'll start with Ryan. Who do you have?
Jimmy talked about him in his matchup. I got to go with the German Giants in Bayern Munich. They're just way too good for everyone else, in my opinion. I know he was talking about how PSG's pace could give him some trouble, but I don't see that happening, quite frankly. Bayern is just way too talented for him. I know PSG has loads of talent on their side, but Bayern is just such a complete squad. You mentioned the front three in Lewandowski, Gnabry, and Coman. And then you got guys like Alphonso Davies, Alaba. Manuel Neuer is still one of the top goalies in the world. And at his age is beyond impressive, in my opinion. They're top of the league in the Bundesliga. RB Leipzig is admittedly quite close behind. They're only 2 points behind Bayern Munich right now, which is actually a really good title race. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, hopefully. But they're just too good, in my opinion. I think they'll squeeze by PSG in a close one. And then their only other real competition at this point is Manchester City, who have notoriously struggled in the Champions League the past few years. I just don't see them having at least a shot at losing to anyone else besides those two teams. They're just way too good for that. I know this may hurt Louie, but I don't think Dortmund has a shot against them at all, especially not in two legs. So I'm going with Bayern.
Yeah, just like you alluded to, Ryan, in order to win the Champions League, you need to be a high-scoring squad. So that does eliminate a few squads. I don't think Chelsea has it. I don't think Dortmund overall can win the Champions League. They could give Man City fits, but I don't think they could win the Champions League. Man City, I'm going to eliminate just because a lot of times when they win, it's just a 2-0 win or something like that, when they can easily, a big team like a Bayern, a PSG would win like 4 or 5-0 in these matchups. So I don't think that Manchester City has the overall might. Real Madrid could sort of squeak their way into it, but I don't think that they have the overall squad necessary. As for Porto, I think they're just happy to be here at this point. So I'm going to go with PSG, who I alluded to last segment, in order to be my Champions League favorites. So PSG, they have the best attack in the world, which I alluded to earlier with Neymar, Mbappe, Di Maria. And this time around in this Champions League, all three of them are healthy. Last year, Mbappe was not healthy for the Champions League quarterfinals, semifinals, or finals. I know he played, but he wasn't fit. He only played a handful of minutes. He came on for the last 10 minutes versus Atalanta. He played, I believe, the second half against Red Bull Leipzig, and then he played the final, all the minutes in the final against Barcelona. But that was just his third game back from injury from a very long layoff. So I don't really count that as him being completely match fit. Neymar was healthy for the first time in his PSG career during the Champions League, and he got to the Champions League final in his first year of being healthy. So that really alludes to how talented he is and how much they can rely on him in big games. Di Maria, we know what he brings with his pace, with his great crossing. He's a very good playmaker. He's going to be integral for this lineup in order to make a run for the Champions League final.
Jimmy, that's a really compelling argument, and I like it. I do like it, but I am going to have to echo what Ryan said here. I mean, you guys would know how much I would like to see Dortmund win the Champions League, but I don't think they can, simply because it's going to be Haaland and Royce. And Haaland, although he can do a lot, he can't do everything. Now, I'm going to take Bayern because you mentioned Keylor Navas, the PSG goalkeeper. I think Manuel Neuer, as Ryan alluded to, is equally as good as him, which is insane to think about, because I know Ryan was talking about the age, and even if you look back a few years, Neuer had an injury and he came back, and I didn't think he was going to be world class, but he proved everyone wrong, and he became a world class goalkeeper even this late into his career. And then another player I want to highlight is Robert Lewandowski. Literally right before the show, I was just checking my phone, checking up on the Bundesliga, and I get a notification. Oh, the Bayern Munich game has started. Bayern Munich game, 1 goal, Robert Lewandowski, like 17 minutes in. That wasn't even surprised. I was like, well, that's what Lewandowski does. He's clinical in front of net. He finds way to score goals. And that's not going to change for the Champions League either. Bayern Munich has and also in my opinion, Bayern Munich rivals Manchester City in terms of quality throughout the team. So I think that Bayern Munich is going to take this Champions League. As much as I would like to see them lose, I do think that they're going to be the ones that prevail in the end. But moving on from the Champions League to the Premier League, now there isn't really too much to talk about looking ahead, as we only have 3 more games this weekend. So I want to take a step back for a second. I want to recap last week, and what we're going to talk about. It doesn't have to be a matchup. It could be a player, a manager, or whatever you saw, something that you found interesting from last week. And you know what, boys? I'm going to change it up. I'm going to go first for this one. How about that? So something I found interesting from last week was the Chelsea versus Leeds match. And it wasn't just that they tied, but it was a goalless draw. Now, I'm going to start off by saying this. I think that was the game Chelsea needed to win. I mean, Leeds isn't horrible. They're 11th in the table. They're playing fine right now. But if you're Chelsea and you want to play in the Champions League, I think you have to come out victorious in this game. But throwing that aside, there was 0 goals in this game. I'm going to describe to you the events that happened in just the first 15 minutes. So I have my list right here, actually. So there was a shot by Kai Havertz that almost trickled in. The goalie from Leeds had to reach out and save it with both arms when he was already on the ground. Then the Leeds goes down the other end just seconds later, and they score a goal, but the ref had his flag up and it was ruled offsides. And this was all within the 6 to 7 minute range. And then Chelsea was very, very close to scoring, and then they turned the ball over in Leeds' box, and a player cleared it, and it bounced off Diego Llorente and hit his chest, and then bounced off the crossbar into the keeper's hands. And I was watching this like, what is going on? And then a few minutes later, Leeds goes down the pitch, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody took a shot from outside the box, and Mendy, Chelsea's keeper, was asked to make an amazing save. He was outstretched 100%. He just got fingertips on it and tipped it onto the bar, and that shot didn't go in. And I was just sitting there like, oh my gosh, no one's going to score. The goalies are playing great. Everyone's getting unlucky. And then the game started to calm down for a bit. There wasn't crazy scoring chances for the next few minutes until halftime, the next, I guess, 20. And then even in the second half, there was some craziness going on. There was another absolutely amazing save by Mendy. He went the wrong way. He dove to his left, and then the shot came to his right. So he just stuck his arm out and was able to make the save. And I was just sitting there like, wow, No one's going to score in this game. So I found that really interesting. It was really a fun game to watch. I highly suggest going to the highlights on NBCSN or whatever highlights there are and watching that because it was truly amazing. And then Jimmy, I want to hear what you thought was interesting this week.
Yeah, so going from one London club in Chelsea to another one in your beloved West Ham, I want to talk about how they fell to my club, Manchester United, this week, 1-0. And overall, that was a great game for Manchester United. They pretty much dominated the entire game with 60% possession. They had 15 shots and 4 on target versus West Ham's 7 shots and not a single one on target. The one goal was an own goal coming off Craig Dawson, which isn't the prettiest, especially if you're seeing it in the box score, but a win is a win, a goal is a goal. We'll take it however we can get it. But the bigger picture, I think, is this win pretty much secures top 4 for Manchester United. Right now, they're 9 points clear of 5th place West Ham with just 9 games to go. And I don't think that with that kind of cushion, they're going to really stumble too much, especially since they've already played a lot of the best teams in England. They don't really have that difficult of a schedule remaining, so I don't think they're going to stumble too much. But also, with the way Bruno Fernandes is playing, and Paul Pogba just came back from injury, I think this midfield is arguably the best in the Premier League. I mean, we saw Paul Pogba, he scored the goal to put AC Milan down in the Europa League and have Manchester United progress. He's just a complete game changer. He was the Bruno Fernandes before Bruno Fernandes for Manchester United. He was really the man that would set everything up and he would take penalty kicks. He was a very, very influential midfielder before he got injured and had all these injury-plagued seasons. But he is really, really integral in this team, especially when they come up against bigger sides. With Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba both being very, very good on the ball, it's very, very difficult to try to defend these two players because who are you going to pick? It's kind of a pick your poison. Are you going to try to stop Bruno Fernandes? Well, then Paul Pogba is there to put through some good key through passes to guys like Cavani and Greenwood and Rashford, etc. And then vice versa for Bruno Fernandes. If you try to cut off Paul Pogba, who's usually a little bit deeper in the midfield, then Bruno Fernandes can either tee himself up for a shot or he can slide in the likes of the guys I just named, like Cavani, Greenwood, and Rashford. So it's really a pick your own poison with these two midfielders. But overall, huge win for Manchester United. Pretty much gives them top 4. I would love to see how Manchester United looks once Paul Pogba does come back. And just a very, very exciting time to be a Manchester United fan, even though we have not been very good in the Champions League as of recent, especially not getting out of the group stage. But nonetheless, very huge, huge game for Manchester United.
Looks like we're all sticking with the London theme today because I got to talk about my Gunners. North London is red, baby. It's been a while since I've been able to say that. But, I'm really excited with the 2-1 win for Arsenal over Tottenham. It was a good game. It was a really good game. Tottenham came out. They didn't look too convincing. I think Arsenal had a really convincing first 70 minutes or so. And then Tottenham kind of took the flow of the game and had a couple of close chances at the end, but they just couldn't quite convert really. And, shout out to Eric Lamela. That was a beautiful goal. Credit where credit is due. That was a beautiful Rabona goal, just placed really well into the bottom right corner of the net, where Leno couldn't reach it and Gabriel couldn't get a foot in front of it. So good job to him. But I think this game was the most Lamela game ever. He comes out and he scores the most beautiful goal, one of the most beautiful goals I've seen this season in the Premier League. And then he gets 2 yellows and he's out for the match and another match. Like, why are you so over aggressive? Just chill out, bro. Like, what are you doing? But no, I really was happy. Martin Odegaard getting on the board for the first time at Arsenal, I believe that's huge for him. And Lacazette, getting fouled in the box, getting pulled down in the box and converting that penalty. He's so clinical on those penalties, and he showed it on that game. I think Arsenal's playing right now against West Ham, actually. So hopefully we're winning that game. I haven't looked at it in a little while, but I'm really excited with how Arsenal has been playing lately. They did draw against Burnley a couple of weeks ago, but they beat Leicester. They did lose the second leg against Olympiacos, but they're through to the quarterfinals. in the Europa League. And, I think this was another really, it gave me hope. It gave me more hope as an Arsenal fan. And that's something that I have not been able to say very much throughout this season, especially in November, December time. We've lost basically 10 games in a row. So I'm really happy with how Arsenal's been playing recently.
All right, so for this last segment, we're finally going to talk about the Bundesliga. I've been waiting to do this for so long. And as of right now, it looks like it's going to be a two-horse race with Bayern and RB Leipzig only being, Bayern is number one, and RB Leipzig is only a few points behind, depending on how today plays out. Then it goes Wolfsburg, Eintracht Frankfurt, Borussia Dortmund, and Bayer Leverkusen, rounding out the top six. So who's going to win the Bundesliga, and then what four teams are going to advance the Champions League in 2022? Ryan, I'll start with you.
I'm actually going to throw you guys for a curveball here because I was bigging up Bayern this entire show, but I think RB Leipzig is going to win the Bundesliga. They're only 2 points behind right now. That's a 1 game difference. If Bayern loses or even draws and Leipzig wins, they're level on points, and I think that is well within the realm of possibility, especially considering that Bayern has to focus on Champions League and RB Leipzig does not now that they're out of the Champions League. So I think Bayern will be playing some of their best squads for the Champions League. Excuse me. And, Leipzig can focus all of their talent and their resources on winning the Bundesliga. And that's I think Bayern is going to drop 1 or 2 points because of that. And Leipzig is going to capitalize. We already know how good of a manager Julian Nagelsmann is. And while Bayern is super talented and they have subs that can fill in very well for their starters, I think Leipzig just has the longevity for talent that Bayern doesn't, because I see Bayern, like I said, I see Bayern winning the whole thing. So they're going to be focusing a lot of their best players on the Champions League for quite some time. As for the top four, I see Wolfsburg staying in. I mentioned Bayern and Leipzig. They're the top two. They're well clear of everyone else. And for the final four spot, I think Dortmund is going to squeeze past Frankfurt. Dortmund is just too talented. We mentioned Haaland and Royce, but guys like Jadon Sancho, they're just too talented as a whole. And nothing against Frankfurt. I think they're just going to settle down in that fifth spot, that Europa League spot, and that's my top four for the Bundesliga.
Yeah, so I agree with your top four, Ryan, but I just have them in a little bit of a different order. I think Bayern's going to go on to win the Bundesliga. I think they just have too much talent. Their squad's too deep. I know that they are going to be focusing a lot on the Champions League and the DFB Pokal and whatnot, but I just think that their squad overall is too strong in order to drop the Bundesliga. They've won the Bundesliga for the past, I believe, 7 or 8 seasons in a row. And I don't see a squad this strong losing the Bundesliga this season. But I think that they're just self-explanatory. They're the champions of the Bundesliga. Leipzig, though, I think they're going to finish in second. The likes of Sabitzer, Upamecano, Nkunku, and Galaxy are really, really good. They've made this team elite. And I think that these guys are a huge reason why Leipzig has been very successful in the Champions League recently, in Europa League recently, and in the Bundesliga as well recently. In third place, I'm going to go with Dortmund. They're starting to turn their corner under their new manager, Terzic. He really started out very, very weak. And I believe he was 4-1-4, 4 wins, 1 draw, and 4 losses through his first 9 games, which is very, very bad, especially for a team like Dortmund with the likes of Royce, Haaland. You have Jadon Sancho, Axel Witsel is really good. Mats Hummels is really good. You have all this talent all on the team, and you can't go 500 the first 9 games. But under him, over the past few games, they've avoided defeat in 7 of the last 8 games in all comps. Only loss coming in their Klassiker, which was a 4-2 loss at the hands of Bayern Munich, which you can't really fault them for losing to Bayern Munich. Lots of teams lose to Bayern, so that's not a big deal in my opinion. And they also progressed to the next round of the Champions League, so they kind of show that they can hang with the big boys a little bit, and they're getting a little bit more momentum. And in my fourth spot, I'm going to have Wolfsburg. They've been a surprise this year, as they haven't been really good ever since Kevin De Bruyne left in 2016, but they fully deserve their spot in the top 4. Weghorst, Mehmedi, Arnold, and Brooks have been really, really good for them this year. Weghorst actually has 16 goals in all comps this year, which is absolutely phenomenal. He's only trailing Haaland and Lewandowski in the Bundesliga, I believe, which is, I mean, if you put money on him to be the third top goal scorer in the Bundesliga, you're probably going to cash out with a lot of money at the end of this season. So the top four, I think, is going to be Bayern, Leipzig, Dortmund, Wolfsburg, and that order. I do think that Frankfurt is solid and Bayer Leverkusen are solid, but I don't trust Frankfurt completely yet. I know Jovic is great, but I don't trust them completely yet. And Bayer Leverkusen, I think they're just going to finish in sixth. They just don't have enough with their slow start earlier this season. But the future does look bright for the two of those teams for sure.
So my top four is a little bit different, but my champion is the same as Jimmy. I'm going to go Bayern winning. I think the Champions League is going to help them. I think that they're going to gain momentum from that. And although they might be playing some of their best squads for the Champions League, I think their not so best squad is still better than any team in the Bundesliga. So I still think that they're going to win. And then obviously I have Leipzig at second. And the reason I don't have them winning is because usually what happens is it's kind of close. And then the last, say, 10 games of the season, Bayern Munich wins about 9 of them. And then the other team is just kind of screwed because of how well Bayern plays towards the end of the season. That's just usually what happens for the last 8-9 years, however many seasons that Bayern has won the title in that Bundesliga. But then in the third spot, I'm going to put Borussia Dortmund. I think they're going to make a push late. Is that a bit of a homer move? Yes, kind of. But I do think that they're going to be able to overcome injuries that they had during the season. And Erling Haaland today just scored his 20th goal in the Bundesliga, and that's cool to see. Only more to come from him. So I have, I have Borussia Dortmund at third, and then I have Bayern Leverkusen, a little bit of a dark horse. They haven't been playing too well as of late, but they usually find in the Bundesliga, they usually find a way to kind of like Bayern make a push towards the end. And it's kind of like, oh, where do they come from? And the next, they're in the Champions League the year after. So I think they're going to finish fourth. I like their chances of making the Champions League. And that is all the time we have for today. So thank you for tuning in. But before we go, I want to say one more thing. If you have a second, take a look at ESPN Top 10. Our home player, CJ Teebling from Seton Hall soccer team, made the Sports Center Top 10. He chested a ball to himself, and then he half-volleyed it into the net. It went Bardowski, too, so that was pretty cool. So if you have a chance, I know this is a soccer show, not really what we usually talk about, but definitely check that out. But again, that's all we have for today. So thank you for watching. Along for my panel, Jimmy Bliss and Ryan Johnston, I'm Louie Pasculli. Stay safe and have a great day.